Hello, and welcome to the Reveal the Legend Within True Story Festival with today's world-class speaker, one of my favourite guests and women of all time. It is the UK's premier book mentor, Lucy McCarraher. Hello, Lucy. Good morning.
Hi Mel, lovely to be with you.
Well, I want to introduce you, or at least list your CV. Is one of the ways I can put it. You are the author of 13 books. One of them is just about, or the 13th is just about to come out. Your very first fiction book was in fact entered into Richard and Judy's book club. I don't know how many people know the Richard and Judy TV Good Morning show hosts, but they ran the UK's first televised book club. And they opened it with a competition. 47,000 people entered that competition. Lucy was a finalist, shortlisted, and published through them. So her very first fiction book was the auspicious start for that. But it's not just that. You've worked in TV and video. You've come through journalism and media. You're what was it? You're the first ever Business Book Award, or you're the founder of the Business Book Awards and founder of Rethink Press, a hybrid publishing company that has supported amazing people into their being published. But much more importantly, and this is my personal contact with Lucy, I saw her speak on stage about her mission, and I was so ignited by it that I chased her down the corridor and into the green room and insisted that she became my friend. So
Very true. Yes. And I'm so glad you did, Mel. It was brilliant. Good.
So
thinking.
I think that's really the place we can start. What is the Business Book Awards story?
Well, the Business Book Awards story is that I had been publishing business books, by which I mean books that support businesses rather than books about business, for at that point probably about 7 years with Rethink Press, which I founded with my business partner Joe Gregory, and had grown to quite a substantial publishing company. And we'd often talked about, should there be awards for these kind of books? Business books weren't really recognised in any of the traditional awards, except for the very big ones like the Financial Times or the New York Times, which only certain kind of authors could get into anyway. So I thought, okay, this is the time to do it. Business books are really selling well. They're really important, and they're making a difference in the world. They're helping people grow businesses, helping new businesses learn in terms of the content that they read. So we started the Business Book Awards. I founded the Business Book Awards, kind of put my head above the parapet, because this was not just for Rethink Press authors, for sure. It was for all good authors and publishers. We wanted the whole publishing industry in this niche, in this genre, to come on board, and luckily they did. And although I could have been left looking very silly, but in the first awards, which were the 2018 awards that we started in 2017, were launched, and we got 150 entries, which was great. The fact was, and I didn't really check it at the time, 50 of the entries were from women and 100 from men. So twice as many entries from male authors as from women. But I had a fantastic judging panel who were equally perfectly gender balanced, and diverse. And we went through a process that I thought was completely fair and equitable and logical. But when we came out of the other end, it turned out, and there was nothing I could do about it, because the judges had totally followed the process in a very, with huge integrity. We had 11 winners. We had 10 awards and one the overall Business Book of the Year award. And every single one of those 11 awards was won by a white man. And that was really not the outcome I was expecting. writing. And although they were brilliant authors, fantastic books, I can't say anything against them at all. This was not right, and people commented on it, and I thought, no, it's really not right. And actually, you know, what a book does for you is something so special and so strong as an author, that I thought, this, you know, more women must be doing this. We must make this platform more open for women to write their books, to get their books published, and to understand that the book is going to do wonders for their business, whatever it is, whether they're coaches, consultants, business owners. So I kind of went all out on a promoting women writing their books, and I wrote a book myself called A Book of One's Own, a manifesto for women to share their experience and make a difference. And for that, I did a lot of research with women authors about what had actually, I mean, obviously there were 50 women authors I interviewed and surveyed. And they had all got their books out, clearly, as they were authors. But I wanted to know from them what had been the barriers throughout the process, what had been difficult for them. And what it came down to was basically 6 C's: confidence, lack of; criticism, fear of; credibility, again, lack of, perceived lack of; 2 that kind of go together: caring, too many caring responsibilities to make it easy to take the time to write a book, and also to run your business, and therefore cash. And finally, the club. There's that kind of indefinable club that men in business, men entrepreneurs, men generally just are part of. And it's very hard sometimes for women to kind of get into that club, to get that nurturing, that mentoring, that support, and feel networked. And actually a book really does that to you, for you. So all of those things, while they stopped women from writing books or held them up or worried them along the way, when they had actually written their books and got them out there, what turned out was that the book deactivated all the fears and provided the platform and the entree to the clubs and also cash, because books are fantastic lead generators. So all of those things were actually addressed by doing that really big, scary thing and writing your book, getting it published and putting it out in the world, and then standing on the platform that your book provides.
Well, as a once published author and a crowdfunded publisher, I can attest to the difference a book makes. And as you say, it's not just a book, it's an asset, it's a lead generator. It is also your credibility in your hand. It's the reach and resonance. Because as you know, and I know, I do speaking or talking and performing, and that's in the room. But your book can travel further than you, and it sits in someone's hands probably at their most intimate moments. It's certainly the moment they've given to themselves to spend with your book. And so you're literally in someone's hands. And that's where the resonance comes in. So it's reach and resonance, and it opens doors for media, for amplification, guesting on podcasts, being featured on blogs, being invited to speak, being invited as guests on all sorts of platforms. So it's also a platform opener, an amplification asset. But I love the fact that you say that it's creating our own platform. There are so many gatekeepers to giving us a platform. You know, invited to speak on something, invited to be a guest. That this, when you create a book, it's literally like putting a stage under your feet that you can then speak from, or people can meet you through. I love that idea. And that's the other thing I was going to just mention very briefly. It's the being made in creating a book. So you don't just put your expertise in. It becomes a relationship with the integrity of your own work. Suddenly Absolutely. You're like, oh, I am that smart, and I have organised it this much. I am. Heck yes. So that's why it creates the C's. in a way, because you
Yes,
have.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's writing your book, planning and writing a book is a huge piece of self-development. So, I mean, in theory, even if nobody ever read it, which of course, you would want them to, just doing that can produce amazing results for you personally, the author, but also for your business. It unpacks what you do, your relationship with your clients, as you sort of put together a selection of case studies to illustrate your book with, pick out aspects of your own story and your own learning journey that you also share with your readers through the book. So yes, it is massively confidence building for you as you write the book. And then it is the classic piece of expertise that, these 200 odd pages with black ink all over them, folded in a pretty cardboard cover. There's just something absolutely archetypal about the book that says, I know my stuff. I am the expert. I am an authority. I have written this.
And, even if we have that little mind gobbling going on that's like, oh, well, so many books out there, everyone's published one. There are so many who haven't published a book. That's why it is at the barrier to, or that you're in the club. Because if you've managed to complete a book, it means you have organized all your thinking. You've decluttered the stories to the ones that have, yes, context, but meaning, and they actually illustrate it. You've understood the role of your case studies and all of these moving pieces to all of your expertise. And as you say, put it in a book. And if you've crossed the line and put it into a book, you've done something that many people haven't. And that's why it is an iconic asset. It differentiates you, or it puts it there. But even if you're the only one reading the book, it makes you realize how credible you are. Because suddenly you do know why you know what you do know and why anybody else should care, which is the fundamental question we all have to answer.
Absolutely.
But this started for you a very, very long time ago when you were, I shouldn't say that, should I?
That's fine. My CV is very long and very dense, so I take pleasure in that.
I love that. At 21, you owned your first publishing company.
Yes, I founded my first publishing company, I suppose, at 21. I landed up in Australia. I was still doing my degree, and I found I was very, very into theatre at that point. And what I found in Australia at that time was the most amazing theatre scene, and it was kind of being crushed by a commercial theatre kind of world that was running Alan Ayckbourn plays and Neil Simon plays, lots of American and UK stuff, and all the Australian actors had to put on British accents to act. And there was this wonderful independent side of Australian theatre that was very much its own. So what we did, just straight kind of in a mad kind of way really, was start a national monthly theatre magazine for Australian theatre. And actually, without kind of really being aware of what entrepreneurship was at that time, or the idea of providing a platform, or without really kind of understanding what was going on underneath this, that is what we did. We produced this magazine that ran for 8 years on a monthly basis. It was absolutely tyrannical. If you've ever run a monthly magazine, you know that you no sooner put one to bed than the next is kind of tearing at you to get moving. But it was amazing experience, and it was just sort of in at the deep end. We decided to do this, so now we have to do it. But it was a very it was a great experience. It was very hard work, but what we did was something that actually hasn't been done since. It really did help. I'm not saying it did it single-handedly, but we really did help to put Australian theatre on the map, and not just within the country, but internationally as well. It went out and it sold Australian theatre into other countries. And what's really nice now is to know that all the issues of Theatre Australia that were produced are now in the National Library at Canberra and in loads of university libraries around Australia too, and they are now being digitised. So all those critiques, all those reviews, all those articles that were written, all those interviews that were done with actors, including Mel Gibson, Barry Humphries, a few kind of, famous names were around at the time, are preserved and are there, and that's the power of the printed word.
Well, and the ripple effect was huge, because in the film industry we suddenly became aware of the Australian voice, and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, came. That was the ripple effect that had on the world, and not just in your field. And so that really is the power of the printed word, of the iconication of something in print. I love that story so much, and but it completely explains, or it's you can see the dots joining to where you are today, and this mission to put women behind their own work, or in the covers of their own work. But can you tell me, give me an example of the challenge it is for women, or what are the biggest challenges that we face?
Well,
And I know there's the
think,
C's, but tell me a story.
yes, but let me give you an example of an author that I worked with, was mentoring through writing their book. They had a fantastic book, a brilliant business, and the book was going to really be superb, and they were writing the book, and at various stages during the book, I mean, as you know, Mel, writing a book is an emotional business. You're kind of you're digging out what's in your head and your heart, and putting it out onto the page. So it is, anyway, for most people, I think, an emotional time, where you go through ups and downs, but it seems to particularly affect women, and the fear of criticism is really, really real. And fair enough, we get trolled, we get criticized, we get taken down. It's not an unreasonable fear. But this particular author had some real panic moments during the writing, and thought that she really couldn't go on. But we got through to where she had finished the book, where she was getting it published. The cover was looking gorgeous. It had been beautifully edited, and then suddenly, on almost the day before we were about to put the book up on Amazon and send it out into the world, she rang me up in absolute floods of tears and went, "No, please don't do this. Stop. Don't publish this book. I can't do it. I can't put it out there. People are going to hate it. They're going to think I'm really stupid. These opinions. I can't share my opinions. It's just too much. Please stop." So I managed to talk her down from, as it were, the top of the building, and we went ahead with publishing the book. And she really was genuinely in a panic about what would happen and how it would be received. And of course, I mean, it's easy for me to say, but as I knew would happen, it was incredibly well received. People were so congratulatory, and it immediately started doing exactly what a good book should do for authors. It started getting her speaking gigs, it increased her business, it got her great new leads. She started working with university courses in her area of expertise. I mean, it has complete. And actually, she won. She was shortlisted in the Business Book Awards. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but it was, she was completely vindicated, and the book has so made her confident, and it's just done everything it should have done. But it is, I am talking about one author, but there are numerous.
That could be any of us.
It could be, and it's never actually happened to me with a male author that we've published. I've never had a male author come to me on the eve of publication and say, "Help, I'm in a panic." But I have had numerous women go through this same thing. So my mission is to try and stop them panicking, make them get through the process, and see what an amazing effect the book has for them when it does get out there.
We see, that's why you're the UK's premier mentor. You're basically great at mentoring people off the top of the building. I mean, you are truly, and as you say, it doesn't. We don't need to know who that author is, because it could be any of us. And there's so many people who are afraid of visibility or don't know what it's going to be like in the glare of the global spotlight. And it's something I deal with. And I always say, I don't know if it's the predator stare, innate response, or the observer effect. And it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you get through that process. You step into that expertise and be who you are. Because we all interact with businesses. Our entire lives do. So businesses change the world. All of us are buying from someone or selling to someone, even if we're going to the grocery shops. We're all having our relationships with businesses. Businesses can change the world because everyone is interacting with them. So to have that asset, the business book, it's a passion of mine, but you're the mentor. You're the one who actually makes it happen. I'm just the person who's cheerleading from the side, like a cheerleader on Fizzy Pop. I'm like, yes, come on, Lucy, get more women.
But it goes so well with the speaking piece as well. The book and the story and the speaking, they just complement each other so well, and one leads to the other, and it's a virtuous circle. So, if you want to get a speaking gig, probably the best way to do that is to just send your book out to someone, and they go, yeah, oh, you're an expert, you know what you're talking about. I love what you've written in your book. Could you give us a talk on it? And it just so well.
Just to back that story up, one of my clients this year was offered a TED speaking spot because she published a book.
Yeah.
And that was it. The TED organisers got in touch with her and said, oh, you've got this amazing book, would you give a TED talk? So I think it's a real door opener.
It is, absolutely, yeah, and a fantastic lead generator. I mean, if you're pitching for a job against or a project, against other coaches, consultants, businesses in your area, you are almost certain to be the only one who turns up and says, "Have you read my book?" And that just is like, well, okay, you've got the job. It happens so often to authors that I've published. It's extraordinary.
Well, you also have this one other thing, that there's always something you didn't expect that comes from writing a book.
That's right. I mean, I call it book magic, for want of a better word. And, there are very predictable things like, as I've just said, that I know that will happen when people publish their books. So they grow their business, they become the expert in their field, they get their own clarity and confidence back or enhanced. They have a fantastic repurposable archive of content in the book that they've written. They get speaking gigs, and they're often featured in the media. But there's always something that happens to every person, and sometimes it's more than one thing, that is, I can predict that it will happen, but I don't know what it is. And sometimes it's like, oh, my absolute guru, I sent him my book and he emailed back to me, and I just can't believe I would ever hear from that person. Or I've been invited to join a government committee on my area of expertise. Who thought that would ever happen? Or I've been offered an amazing international speaking gig, all expenses paid, to somewhere I always wanted to go to. And it's those kind of those pieces of kind of starry magic that really that also always happen as well, but it's impossible to say which one it will be or what it will be for any individual author.
It sounds like when you write the book, you basically crack open the universe of possibilities.
That's right. And obviously the work doesn't stop when you've published your book. You have to get it out there. It won't necessarily just magically attract these things, but the best way to do that is to just give copies away. Keep never go anywhere without 2 or 3 copies of your book in a bag. Give it to the person you sit next to, if you ever do again, on a plane or a train. Make sure you send it out to every possible prospect that you have, to anybody who can help you, and that's what you need to do. Just get your book out there and working for you, and you'll be amazed. It goes to places that you cannot you could not have got to yourself, especially in this world we're in now. The book is a physical, tangible thing that goes out and meets people when you actually can't go out and meet people at the moment. And it gets passed round, it gets recommended, and people you've never heard of and would never have a chance of contacting yourself will come back to you and say, oh, I read your book, can I? And yeah, and then you've got whatever it is, a new client, a new speaking gig, a new opportunity.
Yes, it is that, it is the reach and the resonance, but it's also this it's now the reason to go out. So you still have to go out and prospect, or you have to meet people or network or whatever, but when you go out with your book, it goes ahead of you, it opens doors. So yes, you're giving it away free, or you've got to get out there with it, as you said, but actually now you have a reason to get out there.
Yes,
it's a completely justifiable reason. So people are like, oh, a book, how interesting, curious, and lean in and take it. So it's a beautiful, equitable way of amplifying yourself. What is the one takeaway that you would like everyone to get from this conversation, Lucy?
I think for everyone, but for women in particular, is recognize your value, your knowledge, your experience, your expertise, the way you do things with your clients, whatever you offer, your product is unique to you. Don't feel that you can't write a book because there are lots of books on your subject out there, or it's just boring, everybody knows this stuff. They don't. What you have is special and unique and original, and a book is a brilliant way of it's your gift to the world, your book. And if you don't write it, actually you're keeping all that to yourself, and there are lots of people who could really do with what you could tell them, what they could learn from you, and will get huge value from it. So believe that what you have to offer is worth putting into a book, and then do the work and write it and get it published and out there and doing its work in the world.
Hear, hear, hear. Loud applause from the cheerleader. Thank you so much for your time today. I can't wait for everybody to meet you eye to eye at the festival, and hear you. We're in our leading stories portal, championing them, because that's what you do. You're championing other women and their business, and men as well, and to get their expertise out there, but particularly women, because we just need a little extra mentoring and belief. Somebody has to believe in us sometimes before we can believe in ourselves, and you do that beautifully. But I really am looking forward to, and thank you for speaking at the festival. We'll see you on the other side, as it were.
Thank you, Mel. It's been great talking to you.